The Committee on Finance and Taxation, General Government Operations, and Youth Development now convenes this hearing. In accordance with the Open Government Law, public notices for today's proceedings were sent to the media on Wednesday, May 27, 2015, and again on Monday, June 1st, 2015. For the record, today is Wednesday, June 3rd, 2015, and the time is now 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The committee will hear and accept testimony, both oral and written, on the following items. Bill number 91-33, introduced by Senator Torres, an act to amend subsection 70115 and 70116 and 70117 of Chapter 70, Title 11, Guam Code Annotated, relative to the issuance of Guam business licenses. We also have Bill number 95-33, introduced by myself and co-sponsored by Senator Frank Aguon and Senator Brant McCreadie, an act to amend 8 GCA subsection 40.20 and add a new 8 GCA subsection 40-25 relative to addressing overcrowding at the Department of Corrections through the use of a bail bonds program for court-ordered bail, and authorize the Judiciary of Guam to establish a uniform bail schedule. This act shall be cited as the Bail Reform Act of 2015. We also have Bill number 96-33, also introduced by myself, which is an act to provide an extended period for the filing of appeals for the real property tax assessment for tax years 2014 and 2015, and publish and post notices of such extensions. We have also Bill number 98-33, introduced by Senator Frank Aguon Jr., an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 4, Title 4, Guam Code Annotated, relative to providing preferential credit for civilian volunteer police reserve members who apply for uniform police officer positions within the Guam Police Department. We also have Bill number 100-33, introduced by our Speaker, Judy Wampat, an act to amend subsection 1515I2G of Article 5, Chapter 1 of Title 5, Guam Code Annotated, relative to extending the deadline from July 31st, 2015 to December 31st, 2015 for the Guam Fishermen's Co-op to expend or encumber the proceeds of the grant for the construction, repair, and improvements of the Guam Fishermen's Cooperative Association facility. We also have today a confirmation hearing for Mr. John RUPLEY to serve as a member of the Department of Parks and Recreation Board of Commissioners for a term of 4 years. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues present, Vice Chair Senator Mary Torres. To her immediate right is Vice Speaker Cruz, and to my immediate left is Minority Leader Senator Tony Ada. Thank you. We'll go ahead and start first with the confirmation hearing for Mr. RUPLEY. If you can please join us, as well as anyone else who will be here testifying on your behalf. We have signed up to testify Mr. Raymond Blas, the Director of the Department of Parks and Recreation. Mr. Blas, whenever you're ready, just push the button and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Haviday and Buenos Haviday, to Senator Nicolas, Vice Speaker B.J. Cruz, Senator Mary Torres, and Senator Tony Ada. As the Director of Department of Parks and Recreation, I hereby submit this written testimony in support of the nomination of Mr. John RUPLEY as a member for the DPR Board of Commissioners. During my tenure as Director of the Department over the last 3 years, I have seen firsthand the commitment and dedication of Mr. RUPLEY in assisting our agency, even with limited resources and funding available. Mr. RUPLEY has been a commission member for the past 4 years and has dedicated his time to working with DPR staff and management in mitigating challenges facing our department. Under his tenure as a commission member, DPR has seen improvements in many of its policies and have met many project milestones as a result of his work. Please accept this testimonial as my support for the renewal of Mr. John RUPLEY. Should you have any questions or concerns regarding this matter, please feel free to get in contact with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. RUPLEY, do you have any opening statement you'd like to make on behalf of your nomination?
Firstly, I'd like to thank everybody on the committee. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Speaker Senator Cruz, Senator Torres, and Senator Ada for allowing me to be here today. This is going to be my second term, provided you approve me. And I am one of existing 5 members, and we do need all our people back if that comes into your consideration. As Mr. Blas has stated, I've been pretty active within the department. going so far as to be there when they're planting trees or even for an Easter egg hunt. I just want to make sure that when we take care of our parks, we're taking care of our people. This is our island after all. And line of sight, this is what the tourists are going to see when they come here. Ipaw Beach, the parks. I want to make sure that everything is taken care of and properly maintained. And that's about all I have to say right now.
Thank you, Mr. RUPLEY. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or? Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. RUPLEY, I'd just like to thank you for accepting the governor's appointment again to another 4 years. And I know that this next 4 years is going to go just as fast as the first 4. So, but thank you and congratulations. And I just wanted you to know that you have my support and my vote.
Thanks to everybody in the committee. Is that it?
Mr. RUPLEY, I do have a couple questions. My first question was, there have been some individuals in the community who were inquiring as to the ability for certain private operations to be able to set up shop in government facilities or on public parks, like rental facilities at the beaches or food and concession facilities at our swimming pool facilities. Can you shed some light on the process by which an operation is able to get authorization to be able to open up their establishment?
First of all, it comes to us on a case-to-case basis. Nothing is ever in a box. We have to look at the presentation that they make to us. Right now, we have a request for a remote control track. That is all the details are being ironed out right now. I am one and foremost a supporter of small businesses, so we can incorporate them into our parks without hurting the system and get dollar for dollar, value for value from what we give back into the department. I'm all for it. But as I said, case-to-case basis, we'll look at it. We have all the commission members, and everybody has just one vote. And we are very prudent when we look at it. We want to talk to the person that's going to make that presentation after, even before. They come up to us, and if they're honest and show us what they're going to do and give back to the community, I'm all for it, provided it helps the community and the department.
Has the commission adopted like an actual plan on identifying those areas at specific public parks or facilities that they were interested in getting proposals for? Because I understand that perhaps another avenue for us to consider when it comes to allowing for these kind of operations to set up shop is to identify the space and then to open up a request for proposals to come in or invitations for bid for people to actually say, you know what, I would like to situate myself in this 100 by 100 space, and this is what I'm willing to pay for it. That way it's more competitive versus case by case. Has the commission taken a look at that or considered that?
It has not been presented to us by the director as of this time, but like I said, we will be looking at everything that comes across our table, whether it's a small business or some vendor that just wants to do a 9 or an 8 to 5 business, or somebody that wants to do something over the weekend. We'll look at it. If it's presented to us, we can do it. We certainly can look into a listing of what's available and make it available to the public, so that, like you said, they can look at this place and say, yeah, I can do something here. And like I said, I am a proponent for small businesses. I really would like these people to come out and do something instead of relying on the system. So if they can do a small business, I don't care what it is, selling vegetables at a place or cutting up coconuts, which we have several of. When it comes across our table, we will certainly look at it. But we will, now that I have that question from you, be working with the director closely into seeing if we can get an inventory of what we have and what's available, and get a standard operating procedure on how we can get these folks in there, because it has to be fair for everybody. I mean, if one person is going to be paying $150 a month, I don't see why somebody else is going to be paying more or less.
Right.
So it's got to be standard for everybody,
right.
And that's what I want to look at.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I agree with you. The small business component is always important for us to incubate. And then also too, it's a value added for the experience of the patrons. I mean, if you're able to get some fresh coconut juice while you're walking the Plaza de España, that's a win-win for the government, for tourism, for the vendor, for the park. So I agree with you. The more we can create those opportunities, the better. But if we can develop some kind of SOP and an inventory, I think that would be a real good way for us to make the general public aware, so that various interested parties may be able to come forward, and then we can get some competitive bidding going, maybe increase the revenue streams. Even just by listing the inventory and the SOP, we might just get some interested parties who had no idea that it was as simple as just getting in touch with the department. So that would be very exciting, and I look forward to your second term on the commission helping to bring that to fruition. So thank you very much, Mr. RUPLEY. Absolutely, please.
We have a commission meeting next week, Friday, and I will certainly bring it up to the commission members that are still on the commission, and we can start, Mr. Blas, working on that inventory, and we'll get back to you with what we come up with in a couple of weeks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. RUPLEY. Well, you have my support absolutely for your reconfirmation, and if any of my colleagues have any other questions?
Inspired a thought.
Okay. Senator Torres.
Thank you. Mr. RUPLEY, as we were talking about this, one of the thoughts that came to mind is it would certainly be advantageous, I believe, for the park system on Guam if we were able to mesh some of the themes and experiences within the parks with the village themes. I don't know if you probably have had the experience of going to the National Park Services, right, throughout the U.S. And generally, when you go to those park services, there's something about that facility that is uniquely there. Like the amenities are centered around the theme of the area and the like. So what I would like to suggest is, as you're developing your SOPs and things, why don't you think about working along with perhaps the Guam Visitors Bureau and the Mayor's Council, so that the amenities and the types of businesses that occur within the park area, the specific park area, has some semblance of the theme of the area, so that it doesn't become a mini flea market experience from park to park to park. And, that has always been my bone of contention, I think, with a lot of areas. It's like there's no rhyme or reason for having certain things where they are. And I think, we can capitalize on opportunities to enhance the experience of a particular park. So if you can think about that, and I'd be very happy to maybe sit with your board, or sit with your board in connection with the Mayor's Council and maybe a rep from GVB, just to have this one type of one approach and one vision. So I think that would certainly help your cause, and I think it would just be a great experience for our residents, our community, and also our visitors. So thank you very much. And sure.
Just one point to make on that one. That is an idea that we have been throwing around, but with there's so much red tape we got to go through. Mayor's Council, GVB, to get that information. There's one other thing that I've been rolling around in my head. I've also been to parks that are in foreign countries. Mm-hmm. And I've seen in some of the parks where there is problems with maintenance and with vandalism and stuff like that, they have an on-site person living at that park. I don't know if we can develop something like that on Guam. But in the Philippines, they have it where they have a family actually residing in the park. They maintain the park, they clean the park, they maintain the bathrooms and everything. It might be out of our, might be out a little bit too far for us, but I've seen it and it works. You would think that in the Philippines, you've been in where they have the traffic and stuff is really bad. But the parks are really well maintained and well taken care of, and that's because of the families that they have. And these are lower income families that need housing. So it can be a win-win for us. We give somebody a housing, a place to live, maintain that park. And the park is clean. And like I said, it's the face of the island. The first thing the tourists see here, they come for the sun and the sand and the coconut trees. And if we can keep that thing clean, we keep them coming back. So that's one of the ideas I've been throwing around in my head. I don't know if it'll work, but it never hurts to look. And you have a great idea too. That's a good idea.
Well, it looks like we'll be having some roundtables in the future, Mr. Blas and Mr. RUPLEY. So it'll be exciting, and I'm sure Senator Torres can help us to organize and move those things forward. So we look forward to it. In the meantime, with respect to your nomination, it will be on the next session agenda. You have my support for your confirmation, and I look forward to continuing to work with the department, especially to get some of these initiatives that we're talking about up and running. So thank you very much, Mr. RUPLEY. I appreciate you accepting the nomination and coming down here today. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the other items on the agenda. We have Bill number 91-33, introduced by Senator Torres, an act to amend subsection 70115, 116, and 117 of Chapter 70, Title 11, Guam Code annotated relative to the issuance of business licenses. And I'll go ahead and allow for the author to make her opening statement with respect to the bill.
Mr. Chairman. Bill number 91-33 is an act relative to the issuance of business licenses. This measure was brought forth at the request of the Guam Chamber of Commerce, and what it does essentially is provide more of a business-friendly opportunity for our businesses, where they can not only renew their licenses annually, but renew it consistent with the date that they applied for licenses. There are many jurisdictions where the renewal of licenses vary. Some are done where all licenses expire on the same day and are renewable on the same day annually. And then there are other jurisdictions where licenses renew on the anniversary of their expiration, or shortly after they expire, they renew. You have to renew it 30 days after it expires. So what this measure does is it just amends the law to allow for a more convenient way of renewing business license from the perspective of the business community. And we essentially just amend portions of section 70115, 116, and 117 of Chapter 70 of Title 11 of the Guam Code annotated. It's a very straightforward type of measure, and it is really just intended to promote business-friendly types of activities on Guam. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Torres. I understand the Chamber does have testimony they will be submitting, and it's in the process of being finalized. They do indicate that they are in support of the legislation, and we have no other individuals who have signed up today to testify for Bill 91-33, so we'll go ahead and consider the bill having been heard, and it will be reported out for the next session agenda. Next on the agenda is Bill 95-33. This is an act to amend 8 GCA 40.20 and add a new 8 GCA 40.25.5 relative to addressing overcrowding at the Department of Corrections through the issuance of bail bonds, and to authorize the judiciary to establish a bail bond schedule. This bill was introduced by myself, and I'll just briefly discuss what we're doing here with this bill. Bail bonds are available in 43 different states throughout the country. And the way it works is an individual is given a set bail amount by the courts, and that those individuals are able to go to a bail bond agency who will cover that bail for a fee. On Guam, what we're looking at establishing is a bail bond program, but only for nonviolent crimes and crimes that don't cause any harm to people. And so individuals who commit violent crimes will not be eligible to partake in a bail bonds program. They may still be able to pay bail, but they won't be able to use the bail bonds program to avail of a potentially lower cost out of pocket. So the way bail bond would work would be if you get bail set at $20,000, you can charge a maximum of 15%. So you can charge as much as $3,000 of a premium for an individual to have their full $20,000 of bail covered. We are not permitting bounty hunters to enforce the bail bonds industry here on Guam. We don't want bail bond bounty hunters kicking down the doors of private residences or snooping around private property looking for a potential bail violator. What we are doing is we're authorizing companies to be able to take collateral for a bonded individual, and we're allowing for anyone who does not show up for their hearing and violates their bail to be apprehended by the Guam Police Department or the marshals, depending on which service is going to be most available. The bail bond company would have to forfeit their premium to the government to offset the cost of recovering the individual. So there is a disincentive for the bail bond company to create an environment that would be open for someone to violate their bail conditions. Bail companies may use whatever methods they feel would help to ensure the individual shows up to their hearing. They may have them wear an anklet, a monitoring anklet. They may have them call in daily to check in. That would all be stipulated by the arrangement that is made between the bail company and the individual. All we're doing on the government side is we're providing the regulatory process by which these companies can set up, by which their line of business will be regulated and reviewed, and we stipulate what their limitations would be in terms of who can receive bail, how much they can charge, and what activities they can partake in order to ensure that the individual complies with their bail conditions. This bill is pretty extensive. It's modeled after multiple states, but we went through the various models and we pulled only the specific types of constructs that we felt would be appropriate to Guam. So again, we don't allow for bail for violent crimes, bail bonds for violent crimes. We don't allow for bounty hunters. So I'm going to be asking my colleagues in the committee to please look over this bill very closely. It is a very extensive bill. It's 38 pages long, and a lot of it is the enactment of an entirely new industry that's similar to the insurance industries that we have here on the island. That's pretty much what Bill 95-33 will do, and the way it will reduce the crowding in the prison is right now we have as many as 400 detainees in our prison system. These are not individuals that have been tried and sentenced. These are individuals that are being detained, subject to the conclusion of their trial, or even subject to just being magistrated as a result of their arrest. So these 400 plus detainees make up a portion of the prison population and is contributing to the overcrowding that we have in our system. By allowing for this bail bonds program for nonviolent criminals, we may reduce the prison population by having some of those individuals able to make bail through a bail bonds program and not have to be detained in the Department of Corrections. Not only would it reduce the crowding problem that is something that we've all been trying to address, but on a daily basis, it costs about $100 a day for us to be able to detain an individual in the Department of Corrections. So instead of the people of Guam paying $100 a day for a detainee, that detainee will be able to go to a private company, get a bail bond, and no longer be a financial burden on the people of Guam. And so we're looking at reducing the crowding, we're looking at reducing the expense to the people of Guam, and hopefully through the enactment of this legislation, we can not only reduce the current population in the Department of Corrections, but also the population at the Hagatnya lockup, where a lot of our detainees are held pending magistration. So there's a lot of moving parts in this bill. I'm looking forward to the hard work of my colleagues to help us vet out the various details here, and we're looking forward to reporting this out also for the next session. And if we have no individuals sign up to testify, just to clarify, this bill has passed through the judiciary. They have reviewed it, as well as the Attorney General. They have also reviewed it, and they have given us the green light to basically have the hearing, and they're looking forward to any other comments or questions or concerns from the community and from our colleagues. But without anyone being present to testify, we'll go ahead and conclude the hearing on Bill number 95-33. Next on the agenda, we have Bill 96-33, an act to provide an extended period for the filing of appeals for the real property tax assessment for tax years 2014 and 2015, and publish and post notices of such extension period. We just completed the first real property valuation in almost roughly 20 years. There's been a lot of concerns from the community with respect to how the valuations were determined, and a lot of individuals weren't too sure about whether or not there may be an issue for them to bring up until after a lot of this stuff hit the media just over the last month. Unfortunately, the deadline to file your appeal expired in March. And so for those individuals who may have only become aware that they may potentially have a justified reason to appeal their case, their deadline has already passed. It's been brought to my attention that the director of the Department of Revenue and Taxation is still receiving appeals that are being filed even though the deadline has passed. What we don't want is for those appeals to be summarily rejected just because the deadline is no longer in force, even though they may actually have merit. We've taken over 20 years to have this revaluation. No doubt it's going to take a lot of time also for us to fully vet the results. If we had a more regular revaluation over the years as we were supposed to under law, then it is more likely that we would not have had this many potential appeals. But since we do have a lot, and since our people should be afforded the opportunity to at least have their concerns adjudicated, this bill will extend the deadline to file your appeal to December of this calendar year, which should be more than enough time for anybody who has any kind of concerns to be able to get their documents together, build their case, and file their appeal. And so I know that we have received favorable testimony from the Department of Revenue and Taxation. I'm hoping that we can get some additional testimony, and I'm hoping that I can get the support of my colleagues to move this bill forward in the next session agenda. We don't have anybody who signed up either to testify for Bill 96-33, so we'll go ahead and consider the bill having been heard. Next on the agenda, we have Bill 98-33, introduced by Senator Frank Aguon. We have a sponsor statement included from the Senator. This is an act to amend subsection 4104 of Article 1, Chapter 4, Title 4 Guam Code annotated relative to providing preferential credit for civilian volunteer police reserve members who apply for uniformed police officer positions within the Guam Police Department. And I'll go ahead and read the sponsor statement into the record unless, Senator Torres, would you be willing to read a statement? I've been speaking a lot already. If you can just read Senator Aguon's statement with respect to his bill number 98-33, Senator Torres. Thank you.
This is a letter from Senator Frank B. Aguon Jr. dated June 3rd, 2015, regarding sponsor statement for bill number 98-33. Dear Chairman Nicolas, buenas sanhafa day. I want to begin my sponsor statement by thanking you for holding today's public hearing on Bill Number 98-33 COR, which is an act to amend Section 4104 of Article 1, Chapter 4, Title 4, Guam Code Annotated, relative to providing preferential credit for civilian volunteer police reserve members who apply for uniformed police officer positions within the Guam Police Department. Unfortunately, I could not be with you today because of a previously scheduled commitment. I would also like to extend a warm welcome and my sincere appreciation to those individuals providing testimony on Bill number 98-33 before, during, and after the scheduled public hearing. It is with your support and contribution that we as a legislature are able to craft legislation that will benefit the people of Guam, and in this case, more specifically, the Guam Police Department and its efforts at ensuring the public safety. Bill number 98-33 recognizes the need for an increase in the number of law enforcement officers in our public safety agencies. During a recent oversight hearing of the Guam Police Department held by the Committee on the Guam U.S. Military Relocation, Public Safety, and Judiciary, Captain Eric Fisher went on record to state that the Guam Police Department is understaffed, overworked, and overwhelmed, and that is simply unacceptable. Bill number 98-33 further recognizes the competency of those individuals who serve in the Civilian Volunteer Police Reserve of the Guam Police Department. As members of the CVPR, they each receive the same training in law enforcement, operation techniques, and procedures for natural and man-made disasters as their full-time counterparts. When serving in an official capacity, members of the CVPR are authorized to provide backup manpower for the suppression of crime, preserve law and order, fight and control fires, and assist in civil emergencies alongside police officers of the Guam Police Department. Bill number 98-33, if enacted, would provide 10 points of preferential credit to members of the CVPR who are in good standing with the program when applying to law enforcement officer positions within the government of Guam, most urgently the Guam Police Department. CVPR members would also have to attain at least 2,080 cumulative service hours in order to avail of the opportunity. This ensures that any future full-time law enforcement officers transitioning from the CPVR have both the experience and expertise necessary for a successful transition. As chairman of the committee that oversees public safety, one of my top priorities in the 33rd Guam legislature is to ensure that our law enforcement officers receive the support they need to continue their excellent job in keeping our streets safe. I look forward to working with my senatorial colleagues, our law enforcement officers, and the general public to ensure that we craft the best possible version of this particular measure and discussing it on the floor during the next available session. Undangkalu na si Zeus Maasi, Senator Frank B. Aguon, Jr.
Thank you very much, Vice Chairman Torres. If we have no individuals who have signed up to testify with respect to Bill number 98-33, we'll go ahead and consider the bill being heard. And that will take us to our final bill on the agenda, which is Bill 100-33, introduced by our Speaker, Judy Wampat. It's also co-sponsored by our Vice Speaker, B.J. Cruz, and our Legislative Secretary, Tina Munya Barnes. An act to amend subsection 1515I to G of Article 5, Chapter 1 of Title 5 Guam Code annotated, relative to extending the deadline from July 31st, 2015 to December 31st, 2015 for the Guam Fishermen's Cooperative Association to expend or encumber the proceeds of the grant of the construction, repair, and improvements of the Guam Fishermen's Cooperative Association facility. I'll go ahead and yield now to Speaker Wampat for her opening statements on the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. There really isn't much to say other than the fact that to thank Mr. Duenas for being here and for his leadership, his participation, of course, and his diligent efforts, you see, in the management of fisheries in our local waters. And I visited, Mr. Duenas about, I would say, almost 2 weeks ago, and he brought to my attention that we're approaching the date in which they'll be able to go out and, construct and repair or improve, a new fisherman's co-op. And in addition, the governor had made a decision that FASTBAC will be here in the city of Hagåtña, and that they have received some monies to do some repairs of the facilities throughout the Paseo. And there's the hope, of course, is to try to move forward as quickly as we can with the Fishermen's Co-op, but knowing, of course, that we're nearing the deadline that we needed then to extend the time frame so that then they give them the opportunity to expend the encumbered funds. And hence, of course, I wasn't able to confer later in terms of whether the 6 months time frame would be sufficient or would there be a need for additional time. And I would like to defer then to Mr. Duenas to, in his testimony maybe to provide some information, additional information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. At this time, Mr. Duenas, please join us. He's the only individual also that signed up to testify in favor of Bill 100-33. Hi, man. If you go ahead and just turn on your microphone and state your name for the record, and then I guess before I forget to ask you, if you can just address the speaker's question as to whether or not the 6-month timeline is sufficient for what your needs are at the co-op.
My name is Manny Duenas, not Batman. I have a bad voice. I've had a medical condition for the last 8 months, so I'm trying to endure. And that's the whole reason why I'm requesting this extension, is that I'm the primary person on this project. And also the other principals involved, the design team, is also undergoing medical treatment. And I guess we're all getting old. And the other group, the contractor that was supposed to be involved in the project, has, I guess, been sold to another company. So in dealing with trying to work with them for the last 3 months, there's been lack of communication. But we've been very diligent in trying to get this thing done. The project itself takes 9 months, and the cost of the project, and I thank the good senators from the last legislature were trying to give us 2.5 million. We ended up with only 2 million. But we find out based on the contractor that we have that we're short about $4 million. So we're trying to $4 million. So we're working with the financial institutions of Guam. I was working with them prior to my illness, and they were very favorable. However, the amount amortized over a 15 to 20 year period was very unreasonable to what we can afford. So we just found out we have a federal agency that's willing to assist us, and we're preparing a pre-application package similar to the one UOG submitted for their buildings. So they just found out it's a farmers entity of the government, and they just finally allowed cooperatives to receive funding from that agency, and I'm very pleased with that after 15 years of asking them. It's just funny that a cooperative has to beg the farmers organization to get some money from them. But anyways, they've been very helpful, so that's what I'm working on right now. The setback is I'm sort of a blind person with a seeing eye dog. So I'm having people come around and help read for me, and I give them the answers. And that's what I'm giving you, senators, today. I apologize for not having a written testimony. I can't see. I barely could read the bill itself. But as far as December 31st, it is a good date. I was looking more towards March 31st. The reason being is that there are restrictions to the use of the $2 million. It is strictly for construction. And the things that are difficult in the canyon, especially along the waterfront, is one, I have to build a seawall. And from an estimate of $400,000, it went to $800,000 for the seawall. For the building, the foundation, the basic floor, we went from 1.5 to 2.3. And for the entire construction, like I said, it went all the way up to $6 million. It was 5.3, but actually another $700,000 for the equipment, which I thought was part of the building. So we're no different from the farmers market in Derrida. We're going to get a nice building. We're not going to have anything in it. So I have to work on that too. So it's going to be quite a challenge for me and the organization to work with the agencies involved. And like I said, even the building code has changed over the years. And that has put a dramatic effect on our building. Because, and the flood zone situation in the canyon, we have, and then historic preservation issues. I was told one time there was a gold mine out there. Back in the States, if you own a piece of property and there's gold underneath, the guy that owns the property owns the gold. But I guess in this case, I don't own the gold, or the co-op doesn't own the gold. So in this situation, we have to go to pilings instead of foundation, regular or digging foundation. So it's very it's costly for the whole project. And also the factors that we never considered, and even the designers never considered, that people will be very strict about everything like that. But that's the law, so we have to try and comply.
Thank you, Mr. Duenas. So just to be clear for the committee, so when we address the bill, you prefer March 31st, 2016?
Just to give us some leverage in the sense that because of the restrictions on the how to spend the money is strictly for construction.
Okay.
There are factors that I don't want to commingle the money and get blamed later on that, we spend money on design because we need $50,000 for design. I don't want to do that.
Sure.
I don't want to be caught in that little trap.
Okay. So March 31st, 2016 is adequate.
But hopefully we can get started on construction within the next 3 months. I'm
Sure.
just hoping the design team can come back.
Sure. We'll work with the author to make sure that the language is sufficiently changed. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments for Mr. Duenas? Manny, thank you so much for making the
just
time.
make one quick comment?
Sure.
I'd like to thank the committee for the expediency in this matter and how important it is to the fishermen and the fishing community. Also, I'd like to commend you senators for all the legislation I heard today. I support all of them. They're all great. I just want to clear, with yours on only the marshals and the police, you might and no offense on them, but you might create a black market where they do selective enforcement on who they get, and the bail bond would actually stick it on the side. And Ms. Torres, I forgot my mind is not complete. Senator Torres, I'm sorry. Your bill was
The business license bill
the business license bill. Like, I would ask that you would give a 30-day grace period, because businesses, sometimes we get caught in our business. We forget that the expiration is in March. and we remember in April,
Right.
and then we get penalized.
Right.
And the other thing with there was another one on the real estate. I was sick and I came back and I had to pay my family's real estate, but I paid it all at once. But then I got a notice from Revenue Tax that I was late for the first installment. I shouldn't get penalized for paying it all at once on the first installment when I paid it all. I gave the government all my money. So it's ludicrous to have that. It should be changed that people that pay the full installment, even though you're late for not paying the first installment, you shouldn't be penalized if you pay the both installments at one time before the final deadline. That's the other thing that I felt kind of disgusted with, because Tan Maria might forget too. Not only a sick person. So those are the comments I would like to add. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Duenas. Thank you very much for coming down and joining the committee this afternoon. Just to clarify, I think Senator Torres' bill, I did look at it, and it does offer that 30-day grace period from the filing deadline. Is that correct?
I believe so, before penalties.
For penalties, yeah. Okay. So we'll make sure that we review that on the committee side. That will conclude the items that we have on today's agenda. If any of my colleagues have any comments or anything to bring up at this time, the committee will continue to receive testimony on all items heard this afternoon over the next 10 calendar days. Please address any written testimony to the Committee on Finance and Taxation, General Government Operations, and Youth Development, and may be submitted via electronic mail at senatorsnicholas@gmail.com or hand delivery to the legislature's mailroom or to Suite 407 of the DNA Building, Aguon, Guam. Thank you all for your time and attendance this afternoon. We will adjourn at 2:43 this afternoon. Thank you very much.